The Godfather follows Don Vito Corleone, head of the Corleone crime family. Vito is one of the most powerful figures of the underworld. He has numerous connections to the legitimate world, to judges, law enforcement, to the courts, and to the papers. His true power is Virgil Sollozzo, sending Luca Brasi to investigate the man. And Vito had good reason to be skeptical of the entire affair, as after his refusal, he is subject to an assassination attempt. His bulldog Luca is taken out, and while he is recovering, the Corleone family, now led temporarily by Vito's son Sonny, are pressured by the Turk to take his deal. The Turk wants a meeting with a Corleone representative, and Michael Coreone, as a relative outsider, is nominated. At the meeting, where Sollozzo is backed up by police captain McClusky, instead of negotiating, Michael of course shoots both the Turk and the police captain as planned. He then goes into hiding in Sicily, away from the five-family war which erupts as a result of the shooting of a police captain. Now, Michael spends several years out in Sicily, and he's sought after by the Corleone enemies, coming very close to being killed. Back home, Vito manages to bring an uneasy end to the mob war, summoning the rest of the Dons for a meeting where he manages to negotiate safe passage for his son's return. Michael returns to the US and begins working for his father. A line of dialogue from Michael implies he's been back several years since we last saw him, so a great many number of events will have taken place off-screen in between this time jump. With that in mind, there is a question that arises with Michael's return from Sicily happening so seamlessly. Wasn't he still a wanted man for the killing of McClusky? Wouldn't the cops arrest him as soon as he arrived back into the country? It's not as if he lived in hiding and the law weren't aware of his return. In fact, in the second film, he's a well-known businessman, with the murder of Sollozzo and McClusky brought up in the hearings that Michael is subjected to, where he denies committing the murders. In a scene in the first film, Tom Hagen even refuses to take a letter from Kay addressed for Michael, as it could then be proved in a court of law that he knows where Michael is. This suggests that the cops were actively looking for him. Well, there are several possibilities, the easiest of which to conclude is that some strings were pulled in the background by Vito, the right people were paid off, and the charges against Michael quietly disappeared. How exactly did the charges go away? Well, it doesn't quite matter, but no doubt some shady stuff went down behind closed doors. Of course, there wasn't a lot of evidence to even link Michael with the murders in the first place. Sure, the Corleones knew he killed the captain, and the rest of the families knew, but in that world, no one would be squealing to the cops anytime soon. It was an age before CCTV, the gun Michael used had special tape which kept his fingerprints off, and no witnesses from the restaurant killings came forward to testify. Even if they did, no doubt they would have quietly gone away. So in terms of the law, Michael is actually more safer than one might imagine. His real threat for killing McClusky comes from the other families, and him having involved himself with killing meant he was very much part of the underworld, and his life was fair game for other mobsters. Still though, even if Michael avoided a trip to the police station because of Don Corleone's connections, there is still an open double murder where Michael is the most likely suspect. Interestingly, this is actually explained in the novel the film is based on, and the explanation comes as a result of the Bokeio clan. The Bokeio family are perhaps the most interesting aspect of the book not in the film, and they are a clan I want to take a look at in another video, but to summarize, the Bokeios were a mob clan who moved to the States from Sicily, developing a reputation as mediators between rival mafia families. They took the Sicilian concept of vendetta to extreme lengths, to such an extent they were considered fanatical even by mob standards. If one of their own were wronged, the family would stop at nothing until they had their revenge. It was impossible to buy them off or threaten them, and this powerful, vengeful nature became one of their greatest sources of income, as they began a hostage service to other crime families. To sum up, when a mob sit-down would take place, go. An example from the book is that when Michael meets with Sollozzo and McClusky, Sollozzo hires a hostage and sends him to Clemenza's people, as a way of ensuring Michael's safety. If something went wrong and Michael was killed, Clemenza would have the hostage killed, and the Bokeios would seek revenge on Sollozzo, distanced himself from Felix, and the principals in the fraud, two shrewd businessmen, blamed Felix's legal clumsiness for the plan going wrong and pleaded guilty, cooperating with the state and naming Felix as a ringleader of the fraud and saying he used threats of violence to control their business. The two got suspended sentences and Felix served 3. The Bokeios did not ask for any favors from the other mob families or the Corleones, as they wanted to teach Felix a lesson about where loyalty should lie. In any case, as the book tells us, Felix was eventually released, went home and kissed his wife and 3 kids, and lived in peace for a year. But then, without any attempt to conceal his guilt, in true Bokeio style, he shot his lawyer friend to death and searched out the 2 businessmen and calmly shot the 2 of them, then going into a coffee shop while waiting for the police to arrest him. The Bokeios were finally proud of their man, and they of course fought for him through the courts, but it was certain that Felix would get the electric chair. One Bokeio brought the case to Tom Hagen, who approached Vito with it, who curtly refused to help, as it was an impossible task. But the next day, Vito called Hagen into the office, had a meeting, and then summoned the head of the Bokeio clan, coming up with a plan to guarantee the wife and children of Felix a handsome pension should Felix confess to the murder of Virgil Sollozzo and Captain McClusky. There were many details that needed sorting, such as Felix having to learn the details of the Sollozzo hit, a waiter who was at the restaurant during the killing having to be persuaded to identify Felix as the murderer, and a whole lot of other things. But the long and short of it is that Felix confessed to the murders, was executed, and now Michael was completely in the clear to return home. So if you've ever wondered how Michael was able to return to America despite being a wanted man for the murder of a police captain, there you have it. Though it's never shown in the film, another man confessed to the double murder. Do you think they should have included this in the movie, or do you think the movie's pacing would have suffered, and it's fine as it is with there being a time jump of around a year where the details of Michael's return would have been sorted? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.